Thanks so much. Hi, I'm Ben McVety. I work over at the Black River Innovation Campus, which is hosted in the Park Street School. We are a nonprofit trying to get businesses to come to Springfield. Right now we're working on, we have a company called Uplevel Foods that is creating basically it's like a ketchup that fights cancer. It's very cool. And we're trying to get them to come in. But we run a business actuator program for entrepreneurs and business startups, trying to get some interest in Springfield, and we're starting to get some interest from Springfield, which is great, and showcasing the Vermont lifestyle and the Vermont ecosystem and what can be successful here, and starting to attract some cool people from Boston and neighboring regions that are a part of our program, which is cool. My position is Director of STEAM Programming. I was a new hire as of February, and I'm here to do outreach like this workshop today, as well as to provide programming for students K through 12, as well as professional development for educators, all for free, to try and uplift our community and get some more really cool programming based around science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. So that's who I am. I talked a little bit about the Black River Innovation Campus and what they do as well. In addition to that, we are also a co-working space, so we're a place there for people to house their small business or just work from home or work from our business instead of at home if they need high-speed internet or a conference room or a recording studio, high-end PCs. We have all of that in the space in Park Street. We partnered with VTEL to have really fast internet there, 10 gig fiber internet. So if people need to work on movie production and they need to stream video editing across to a cloud server in California or something, they're able to do that. And we have done that a few times in the past, which is really cool. Yeah, we also have rentals. We have drones, laptops, some camera and audio recording equipment for rent, but the rent is free. It's just, you can check it out, check it back in whenever you're finished with your project, which is kind of fun. All right, but we're all here to learn about AI and how you can use it in a workflow. So before we talk about the workflow stuff, I want to go into a little bit of what is AI, where is it right now, where is it going, and why do we care? So AI, artificial intelligence, it's basically computers that can learn and reason and act in ways that would normally require a human brain to do so. They're not quite to the part where they think, but they do work on what's called an artificial neural network, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. These are being integrated really, really quickly into business workflows because of the incredible speed that they can process data. They're excellent at reading a spreadsheet and spitting out relevant information for you. That is where their true calling is. There's a lot of hype around image generation and like video editing and video creation and stuff, and that is another workflow that they're pretty excellent at. But the true power of AI is in reading a spreadsheet and finding patterns in the information for you. So how does it work? It's basically a big algorithm that gets fed a whole bunch of information, and it spits out information that you ask it for. So this can be tokenized, which means it's an incentive-based AI where you want it to arrive at a result, and so you'll reward it with a token if it gets closer to the result that you want. And that can be on labeled data, which is data that is curated. It's like specific Wikipedia articles or a YouTube video that is captioned so that the AI knows exactly where the relevant pieces of information are, and it can draw from it. Or unlabeled data where it just scans all of Reddit and makes its result off of that, where nothing's labeled, it's just raw input.
Can you go back to tokens?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
So a token is like a carrot and a stick, where you are drawing an animal forwards with an incentive towards a goal. So like towards like a race dog following the rabbit around. You can do the same thing with AI. And actually, that's what this visualization here is. And that's called deep learning. That's trial and error. The AI will try and try and try until it gets better at what it does, and then eventually it will learn to drive a whole race course, for instance, like this. It learns to stay off the walls. It learns to navigate its speed, and then it will reach the finish line. And it learned this all on its own through trial and error. That would be like a tokenized thing where you want the robot to stay off you want the driver to stay off the walls, you want the driver to go as fast as possible, and you want the driver to finish the course. So you're gonna give it a little treat every time it does something correctly. So if it drives farther without hitting a wall, it gets more reward than if it just hits the wall, like the ones in red that don't go very far and they just kind of immediately spread out and hit the walls, versus the green ones, which are starting to not hit the walls and go farther. The AI is incentivized to do better, to improve itself over trials and trials and trials. That's kind of a quick and dirty of how to teach an AI through something called deep learning. You can think of it as how humans learn through trial and error. We learn through experience. The AI is learning through experience in this specific case here. If you want to go on a deep dive on how he did that, it's a YouTuber named Yosh, and you can find his information. He works in a racing game, which is this image is taken from one of his videos, and that's all he does. He trains AI to race these courses in this game that you're seeing, Trackmania.
So
Yeah.
What is an example of how when you would use that? I mean, a racetrack, I see you got to get from here to there faster than the guy beside you. But in terms of real world,
Yep.
where would you use it? It means the user has to know the desired outcome.
Yes. So a good example of training an AI over time would be facial recognition. So you feed it a whole bunch of Facebook posts with the person's face, and then every time it sees that face, it'll recognize it. So this can be used for security systems to enter a building. This can be used by the military with their drones, which they're already doing in Ukraine to find their targets. This can be used for search results, which I'm going to do an example of later. If you're looking for an apple, it knows what that looks like because it's been trained on what an apple is.
So you have to train it for the desired target.
Sometimes, depending on the wealth of information that's given to the AI, it might already know what that is because the lists have been curated. So it's already been given the apple. Yes?
A couple of minutes late. Is the deep learning kind of like a deeper dive into what machine learning would do?
It's exactly what machine learning is. Yeah, it's just a form of machine learning. And deep learning, you can think of it as just trial and error. And so if you take a empty AI that has been fed no data, and you do what's up here, where you give it some really small parameters. You should accelerate your car. You should put in some random inputs, and if that random input hits a wall, don't do that random input, and then see what happens. Eventually, that AI will improve up to a certain point, and then it's going to need some additional parameters like don't speed up if you see a wall right in front of you or something.
I guess this is how they would probably train chat GPT and so forth. It's pretty much, they would probably obviously continue adding training to it, inputs to where they would get that deep learning.
Yes.
Library there, where it's going to be able to answer the queries that one would do on GPT chat and so forth.
Right. Yeah. ChatGPT and other like major, huge. So like ChatGPT is built on OpenAI software, which is like the framework, and that framework is they scraped data from a bajillion sources and just fed it all in there, and
it's kind of like data that's already been accumulated. They're just building on that platform.
So yeah, when they first figured out how to get the AI to work, all it's doing really in the back end, ChatGPT, is it's It sees your query and it assigns like word strengths to each of the individual words, and it will spit out an answer that it thinks is the next most logical word to spit out in a row, and you get a full sentence that makes sense. It's actually insane how it even works at all, and that is pretty much their understanding of it too. Is it works, and they're not 100% sure exactly why it works. They have a general idea, but it's pretty wild, and it's all algorithmic based. It basically is guessing the next word in the sentence. But now, as the iterations of ChatGPT, we're on 4.0 or something right now, which came out recently, like last week or 2 weeks ago. It gets better and better because they start curating it more and more and more, and they have to filter out all the inherent racism and all the other stuff that's problematic of feeding it human information, because humans have a lot of flaws, and those flaws go right into an artificial intelligence. So, but yeah, and we'll get into that right here with the different types of AI. Now, 2 of these types don't really exist, but we're getting there really fast. Reactive machines, that's existed for a while. Limited memory is ChatGPT. That's recent, as of like a year or 2. Theory of mind, we're close-ish with GPT 4.0. It can reason through an answer, but it's not quite thinking on its own, and we'll get into that. And then self-aware, we don't have self-aware AI yet. So reactive machines, they react to stimuli based on programmed rules. These have been around for a long time. They don't use any memory, and they don't have storage of any sort. They're like one-offs. So a great example would be DeepMind, Deep Blue, the chess bot that beat Garry Kasparov, the chess grandmaster. And today's equivalent would be Stockfish. It's a chess AI that's used in a lot of benchmark tests, and it runs in the background if you play on chess.com or anything like that. That's the thing that tells you what the next best move is in chess. It can analyze, thousands of moves in advance and spit out the fastest or the best move in your situation pretty much instantaneously. But these are all reactive machines, or examples of reactive machines. Limited memory is any AI that you're going to interact with. It's already built into your phones. It's built into web searches already, Bing especially, but Google as well. These improve over time. These use those curated lists. These have that deep learning, those algorithmic-based artificial neural networks, which is, it goes down a branch of thought, and if that branch of thought is a dead end, it backs up and it goes down a different branch of thought until it gets to the right answer, or the solution it thinks is the right answer. So this is where all the money is. This is where all the research and development is in this limited memory AI. Theory of mind is the next step in artificial intelligence. This is where ChatGPT is getting a little closer to with their 4.0. You can ask it to reason through an answer, and it will go and say, if you ask it like, what's 5 plus 1? It'll say 5 plus 1 is 6, and here's how I got to that solution, and it'll back it up with a logical thought process. And you can ask it to do that, and it'll spit out the back end, which it was not able to do before. So that's a step towards theory of mind. But theory of mind is it forms kind of a picture of the world. It understands context clues, which gives it a little bit more meaningful interaction. You can start to give it ethics, which is going to be a breakthrough for things like mental health, having a counselor that you can talk to right in your pocket. It's going to be pretty cool. Some people are already using GPT for that, but it's not really thinking yet. This would be when it starts to think. It gets into theory of mind. And then self-aware is it's aware of its own identity and its consciousness, and they're not there yet. That's also really difficult to prove. These are, I don't know if this is ever possible, but we're not there yet. So we've already talked a lot about this, so I'm just going to kind of zoom through this. It's supervised learning, unsupervised learning. Supervised learning is like curated lists. You give it information you want it to have, and then it spits out information that's relevant. Unsupervised, you just give it a bunch of information and see what you get. That's how the first AI was built. And then reinforcement learning, which is our carrot and stick analogy that we talked about earlier. You're giving it incentives to do the things that you want it to. So you can feed an AI cat images. It'll eventually know what a cat is for supervised learning. Unsupervised learning, unstructured data, just give it stuff. It'll find patterns in that stuff and give you out. So this is like if you ask an AI to read a graph and chart the prevalence of foodborne illnesses in China or something like that, it'll spit that out. That would be a little bit like a unsupervised learning. And reinforcement learning, we talked about this, trial and error. Those are the ways. And we've said the word a bit, artificial neural network. This is made out of artificial neurons. They're called perceptrons in the industry, which are computational nodes used to classify and analyze data. You can set a rule to that node. For instance, back to our race car example earlier, don't hit a wall. That can be a node. And if that node is bypassed, it will go to the next node, which can be accelerate. And it will do that, and it will learn and improve based on getting through those nodes. This can turn into potentially thousands of layers, which can kind of imitate how your human brain works through logical steps to arrive at a conclusion, which is kind of cool. Yeah, real quick, let's get into the benefits of AI. What can it do? We've talked a lot about that already, and then the drawbacks. And we're going to start with the drawbacks because there are a bunch. Here are the ones we're going to go into. Environmental impact. Novel, but not original ideas, meaning what does the AI spit out for you when you ask it to give you something? It can't think, so it can't do emotion. It can simulate emotion, but it's not thinking, so it can't give you an actual emotional response. Inherent bias, and then we'll talk about the jobs and the job economy, as well as ethics. Who's going to use this for good? Who's going to use this for bad? Sorry for the small text. This says training GPT-3 with 175 billion parameters. So GPT-3 is a couple iterations ago of ChatGPT. It consumed 1,287 megawatt hours, producing 502 metric tons of carbon, which is 112 gasoline-powered cars in over a year. And that's just training it. That's not everyday use. So that is how much they used to train the AI to then release to the public. GPT-3's daily carbon footprint being used is 50 pounds of CO2, which is 8.4 tons per year, which doesn't sound like a lot, but that was in 2020, or 2022. I think it was 2022. AI energy consumption will likely increase by 300% by 2025, which is next year. And then you're going to have a plethora of e-waste. So what's running GPT when you put a query in is they have a bank, they have a data center full of graphics cards that are running, kind of like crypto mining, where they just buy all the graphics cards on the market and they mine for crypto, except now you're getting a better result than nothing. But they use all these graphics cards to power these AI, and that's very energy. They have to cool it, and the cooling is it's where all the energy draw is. Yes.
Could you just back up a little bit and
Yeah.
tell us about these are all computers that are doing all of this work, and
Correct.
how big is this computer system in terms of size? Give us some relative.
Oh, that's a great question. If you take any of the big warehouses over in the North Springfield area, they're 60, 80,000 square feet, facilities. Those would be filled from floor to ceiling with graphics cards and cooling. Like that would be how big a data center that is powering GPT-4 would be, or larger. And so the energy consumption would be mostly for cooling that facility, and then also for powering.
How do they cool it?
Big old fans, air conditioners. So they use a variety of different ways, but a lot of these facilities, it's just you're pumping cold air in and you're pumping the hot air out. So it's a lot of air conditioning units. So your power consumption just kind of goes through the roof. And some states in the United States are more friendly towards these big facilities than others. And the ones that have seen their power consumption spike like 70 or 80% over the last 5 years. last 10 years due to Bitcoin mining, and now it's these data centers for AI.
Do the data centers also have like solar panels that are doing it, or they're pulling it off?
We will talk about that in just a second.
The AI that's being generated has to figure out a better way to cool itself.
Now you're getting to it, yeah.
Let's get some good out of this.
Yeah. So, and we will get to that. So, and we talk about that in just a second, actually. Yeah, e-waste. When the graphics cards are obsolete or they break, what are you going to do with all that e-waste? It's a ton of e-waste. And we are already seeing e-waste issues with old cell phones. Everyone's got a whole bunch of e-waste in their pocket. And when this expires in a couple years or it gets replaced for the bigger, better, that's a lot of stuff to process. And a lot of it ends up in landfills, which is unfortunate. And also nowadays, a single web search can be 100 times more energy expensive because it's running it through an AI in the background and spitting out more relevant data for you, which is good for you as the user because searching for things has gotten really bad due to search engine optimization, SEO. You don't get the mom and pop forum that has your exact answer anymore. You get the big data-driven, curated websites that are all ad-ridden and now you gotta find your way through that to get your answer.
So now when you do a little search, you get the AI generated.
It'll generate that sentence on the top. Yeah, you can't actually turn that off unless you use special search engines. So you're just used 100 times more energy, and it was involuntary on the search because they've built it into everything. So there's, granted, a single web search wasn't that energy expensive. But if it's 100 times more energy expensive now, and you've got people searching billions of times a day, that's, it adds up pretty quickly. But how do we make it greener? That's what we've been wondering, right? So they have developed energy trackers that can see exactly how much energy a certain AI build is using, so that they can try to offset those emissions. A good example would be the emissions impact dashboard from Microsoft's Azure business framework. It's a enterprise solution for larger businesses that Microsoft has, and lots of people use it. And they have a built-in emissions impact dashboard, so you can try and figure out how to offset your carbon emissions a little bit. There's also an experiment AI tracker from Stanford that's still being developed that will be more open source, so people can see how much their AI usage is impacting the environment, so that they can try to offset as well. But that's very individual. That's on you to try and offset your own carbon footprint, which is difficult to pass on to us. Really, it's the manufacturers, the industry that should be worrying about this, and they are. All major cloud providers, which are running the big AI generator systems, they plan to run the cloud data centers on 100% carbon-free energy by 2030, which is great. Microsoft by next year should be 100%, and Google is already 100%. And Google is OpenAI, I believe.
And was it Microsoft that was opening up 3 Mile Island?
Oh, I don't know. That's a good question. And hopefully AI will provide more solutions for greener solutions in the future as well. That is what they're good at, after all. Let's talk about artistry in AI a little bit. They can't think. It looks like they're thinking, but they're just spitting out the next logical word in a sentence. Currently, they might be able to think in the future, I don't know. But what that will do is that will reduce the creativity in the aggregate, but it may give the individual some ideas that they didn't think of individually. So how I ask AI questions is, I want to do a lesson plan on, and we'll get into this in a little bit. I'll do a demo of a whole bunch of stuff. I want to do a lesson plan on space. I need a hook to get kids interested and engaged. Like, help me out with a hook. And it will give me 5 different hook options that I can use for a great catch, to get the kids interested in right at the beginning of class. And it's really good at doing that. But then if I asked it for 50 more ideas for hooks, they would not all be unique. They would all be kind of variations on the same. And you can ask it for a really easy way to see this is to type into GPT, I am running a workshop on AI. Give me an interesting title for AI. and it'll spit out 5 titles, and you can ask it for 50 titles, and it'll spit them all out, but they'll all be kind of variations on the same 30 or 40 words in different orders. So that's creativity. Yeah, it can only spit out information based on data sets it's given or programmed. So if you're asking ChatGPT to do something that it doesn't have any information on, it's not going to do a very good job. And then obviously lack of empathy. It can't think, so it just gives you whatever answer it thinks is statistically the most probable. But there's no empathy in there. Yeah.
So how do you give it the information that it's looking for?
Data sets, massive amounts of data. And those, for ChatGPT, that's curated data lists. So you have companies that aggregate your personal information or just information, some of it is personal information, from the internet, from the wealth of human knowledge, and they'll take that and they'll take specific sections of that, like history books or something, and they'll put that into ChatGPT, and ChatGPT can source that for its knowledge later on. If you want to get really specific, so MIT, is it MIT? It's Harvard. Harvard University has a free program called CS50. It's an Intro to Computer Science, and they have created an AI rubber ducky. Rubber ducks are used in the tech industry as conversation partners. If you're stuck working on a piece of code, you talk to your little rubber ducky and you talk the code out, so you can hear where the error in logic is, and that's a big in the computer science world. So they've built an AI rubber duck that doesn't give you the answer to your question, but instead it will reference all of the source material, and it only takes its information from the source material in the course, so the videos and documents uploaded to the course, and they're all time-coded with what type of information appears at what section of the video. So the AI can reference it and then give you a query response that kind of matches what your question is. So if you're like, how do I use an if statement in coding? Well, it won't say, use an if statement to check a Boolean, to check if something's true or false. Instead, it'll say something that leads you towards the answer, kind of like a tutor would, or even a teacher asking guided questions in the classroom, instead of giving you the answer. So it's kind of cool.
So one of the things that I've used in the library, we were looking at developing our tech plan for the next few years.
Yeah.
I said, write a tech plan for a library, and it gave us just basics as to what we should be looking for, and then we could fill in the blanks. So those were, and if we had something that was written at a higher level, we'd ask it to rewrite it at an 8th grade level. So that's something that's really useful.
And it's very good at doing that type of stuff. It's excellent at that. So bias, when the earlier versions of it, it's getting better now, but it's not out of there. But earlier versions of AI were very biased, and it's based on the lack of curated information that the AI was trained on. So you put garbage in, you're going to get garbage out. There's a lot of bias and issues with just giving it like the entirety of Reddit, which is an online forum, to base its information on. It's because there's a lot of bias and racism and all sorts of stuff in there that gets fed into the AI. So some more recent issues with AI is covert racism, where you can have it take a picture of your face, or it'll read your face, and it'll assign you a job that it thinks you can do based on your face, and it will also guess, or it can guess based on prompts by you, whether or not you'll go to prison, whether or not you'll die if you go to prison, that type of stuff, and what type of job you should have. And it's definitely biased towards racial minorities not being given jobs that are as high paying, and that was based on a couple studies done recently as well. That's stereotypes based on race. Facial recognition, it'll assign faces as angry or assuming more negative emotions due to race way more often in minorities as well currently. So there's some inherent bias in the systems that eventually will be ironed out, but as of right now are issues. Jobs, which we were talking about a little bit before the session started. Jobs availability is going to change rapidly, and it always has, and it probably will continue to change even more rapidly into the future as this technology tree just increases exponentially. This displaces manual labor that's happening now, as well as knowledge workers in the industry now. So you can think of like a lack of skilled carpenters because we stopped doing the apprenticeship programs, and we forced everyone to go into school and go to college and don't go the CTE route. Well, now we have no more skilled carpenters out there, and the job qualities have gone down as a result. It's very similar. Things like coding, repetitive tasks, accounting, and even journalism, these things are already being given to AI in mass numbers. A lot of those news websites will build most of their news article in AI and then just edit it and send it out because it's so much faster, and they can do it en masse, particularly the smaller news websites, the less reputable ones. They're doing this all over the place. Repetitive tasks, AI is fabulous at repetitive tasks, but that is technically taking jobs away from people, putting toys together, guns together, whatever. The robotic arms are fabulous for that. Increase in worker productivity, this does result in an increase in productivity, which usually results in more corporate profits, which is an incentive for them to continue to use these. The estimate rate in 2020, I believe this was from, is 1.7 million jobs were lost to robots and AI, and that'll be 20 million jobs a year by 2030. But those numbers are offset by job creation numbers, which are higher per year currently than jobs that it's taking away. So the estimate in 2020 was 2.3 million jobs were generated. Instead of 1.7 million jobs lost. So it's a net positive. The jobs are just different. 25% of American jobs today are at risk of automation in the future, and 33% of positions that exist today did not exist 25 years ago. So again, those numbers are offset in the general positive direction in terms of job growth. The jobs are just changing really fast. So that begs the question, how do you get people trained on these jobs that are appearing so fast, which is where we are in education today. Ethics, consumer data privacy is really big. Where is the information training the AIs coming from? Well, it's coming from the internet, and they're taking certain lists that are either open to the public, or they're buying them, or they're buying your information and training these AIs on information that can be bought and sold online. The cost to curate these lists is wildly expensive because they have to go through every piece of information manually and assign values that the AI can read, which takes a long time. And this type of information can be used by bad actors to create tons of misinformation campaigns. They can paste across social media with them. They can do bot farms. They can do subscriber farms where you can pay a company to subscribe to your YouTube channel to boost the views, to spread the misinformation. There's a ton of ways to use this that's not the greatest. And then we've already seen it in Ukraine. They're using mass amounts of drones in combat now. It's the next wave of how combat is going to be fought in wars. It's going to be drones. It's going to be robots on the ground. Think MIT's little robot dog. They've got those and are deploying those now in combat. They're going to be using facial recognition, social monitoring stuff, cameras everywhere to do combat, and you're going to have less and less actual boots on the ground. The initial wave will be drones, and then the boots follow. Similar to the last generation of combat where we'd have fighter jets bombing, and then the ground troops followed it, or tanks and then ground troops. So that's the evolution of combat with AI. Here are all the benefits. I only put it on one slide because we've talked about a lot of benefits already. Automation. It can monitor network traffic. It can look for manufacturing defects with cameras because it has recognition features. It can do repetitive motion great without breaking down. It just needs routine maintenance. It can work 24/7, infinite availability. It reduces human error because it'll follow the exact same process every single time. So finding where it's failing is a lot easier. Repetitive tasks, fast and accurate. It can process information. It can find patterns and relationships in data much, much faster than any human could, which saves you a ton of time and money. And it's awesome at research and development. This is like the best thing about AI is like researching, doing predictive modeling, quantifying large data sets, and taking that data sets from like the medical realm, like developing new treatments for cancer. It's already making huge leaps and bounds in the fight, in battling cancer and eventually solving how we can fix that with new procedures, new ideas.
For many years, I worked with him for an inventor. And the whole gist of his value was, you know, everybody's doing this, but you have to see what's going on that you don't expect. You have to always be looking out of the corner of your eye and thinking, oh, look what just happened, that we had no idea it was going to happen.
Right.
Does AI kind of scan the big picture and pick up on stuff like that?
So it can't.
To me, that's a human thing.
So it can't think, but what it can do is it can grab. It can see patterns in data that we might not see, or we might miss, or we might not have time to go through 50,000 patient records for death from COVID and see what all their underlying similarities are, or analyze a genome like an earthworm genome or the human genome and see the variations in the billions of strands of DNA and which ones are similar, which ones are different, which ones might affect certain parts of the body.
Look at things that exist with incredible speed.
Yes, and it's the speed. It's the speed that's important. We would maybe stumble across it eventually, but it would take many, many, many years and a boatload of more people, whereas AI can grab it, analyze it, good to go, give me the next piece. And the speed at which it can do that is leading to a ton of breakthroughs already. That's really cool. And it's improving logistics, like getting something from point A to point B, AI is all over that. Like they can analyze, traffic jams, how to get around it like instantly and move it around, and reroute you in Google Maps. Like that's AI as well. Stuff like that, saving time and money. It's all about. That's like the biggest strength of AI, especially if you're working with large data sets. So here's some applications that you can do with AI. We've talked about already a lot about it. Speech recognition, predictive modeling, image recognition, data analytics, translation, cybersecurity, tutoring, training, and video, image, audio generation. So we're going to look at all of that. So speech recognition, you can already see that on the screen. I have captions on, and that is Microsoft PowerPoint's built-in caption AI listening to me, and it's very accurate. I don't know if you can see it from where you are, but it does a great job. Your computers have that built in as well. It's a bit harder on a Mac, but it's there. For my computer, it's Windows key plus H, turns on speech to text. So I can talk and it will type it right in instantly, and I don't have to touch the keyboard. It's great for accessibility. There it is. There's it translated into Chinese. And then if you wanted to hear it spoken in Chinese, let's say you're working with an intern from China on a project, you can have it talk to them.
因此，我可以说话，它就会立即输入，我不必空我键盘，这对无障碍环境来说非常好。
And that is this sentence, but in Mandarin, just that fast, which is wild, and it's really improved a whole ton. That's also built into your phone, which is kind of awesome. Let me get back to the presentation. And a little scary, but super, super cool for cultural. I used to work at boarding schools, and we'd have about, it's a boarding school, so we'd have an international population. And crossing the gap from like a Chinese learner to an American learner is wild because their cultures are so different. But having something like this available where you can do these activities, and it's like the barrier to entry is so low because you don't have to teach them basics of how Chinese works, and with the inflections of the words and stuff is really, really cool. Predictive modeling, another thing you can do with AI. This has been built into emails forever. Spam filters are all predictive modeling. Fraud detection, phone calls, when your thing says possible scammer, that's a predictive modeling. Churn prediction, if you run a YouTube channel and you get subscribers, how many of those are going to fall off versus new subscribers, that's churn. Click stream analysis, who's clicking on your links and from where. Disaster recovery plans. We have that horrible hurricane, so you know that the insurance companies already have all of their models for how they're going to rebuild Asheville and the other damaged areas in the hurricanes. Weather forecasting. There's an open source website called GraphCast that uses AI to model weather up to 10 days in advance based on historical data. Expected reactions of diseases to medicine, which we talked about as well. What do we think is most likely going to happen if we administer this to humans or any other animal? Image recognition, which is super cool. We've talked about this. Let me get my computer set up for this one. Lovely. Lovely. Come on. So if you're out and about, this is my home screen on my phone. If you're out and about and you're like, oh man, I really like that chair. Where can I get that chair? Well, you can take a picture of it and ask Google. And it will tell you what that chair is and how much money it is. There it is. It's right there. $72. It's actually more closer to the top one. It's not the exact chair. That works for literally anything. So I got this little rubber ducky here. I'm going to take a picture of that with my nice big thumb in there. Here's a whole bunch of 3D printed rubber ducks. Or I really like this microphone. What is this? Like what company makes this microphone? Oh, well, here it is.
Amazon has the same where it'll take you right.
So that's called Google Lens. That's built into your phone. There are a whole bunch of different image recognition software out there. Oh, it might even do me. What do we think? We think it'll do me? Oh, close. It's got some beards in there. It likes the beard. Although, here, let's do that. Let's move it up a little bit. Oh, I guess it doesn't allow you to do people. That's fair. I feel like that's fair. All right, let me get back into my presentation here. Extend. So if you're interested in that, on my phone I have an app called Google Search, and the icon right on the right is a camera with a fun little thing around it, and that brings you right into the lens. You can also speak into the microphone, and it will search. That's also AI. So that's image recognition. That's used in industry for quality control. They'll take a picture of the device or just rotate it on a little 360 camera or something. We'll take a look at it. They can do thermal imaging. They can do X-ray to see weak spots in materials, and that's how they do quality control. They can also take like a bicycle crash helmet from an accident or a motorcycle helmet and see where the flaws are from an accident. They'll take it and do resonant image scanning of it, and the AI can say, okay, well, based on the fracture lines, here's what's going to happen in the next accident, and you should reinforce these areas of the helmet. So that's already being used, which is kind of cool. Data analytics, you can create charts based on data. You can analyze trends in HR, sales, and in your personal finances, anything like that. So an example would be, I have a list of schools near us and how far they are from my place of work. So I'm going to select a cell range here. If I can, it's hard to do while turned around. And I'm going to ask the AI over here to create a bar graph of the drive distance from Brick to the schools. I'm going to ask it to build it. It's taken the data from the chart. I want to put it in the same sheet. I want to put it in this cell. I'm going to insert, and there it is. Nice bar graph. Hartford's far, and Riverside is not, or Union Street and Riverside are not. So that's just a quick and dirty. This would be more ideal for tens of thousands of data sets where I can just not sort A to Z and see it. But just a quick and dirty example of some way that you can use that information. By the way, all of the images, yes?
So that was in an Excel sheet, and then what's the name of this?
This is an add-on for Google Sheets. This is actually Google Sheets. This is called Coefficient. It's a Salesforce HubSpot data connector. There's paid. This is the easiest free one I could find. There's a billion of them that are paid that are pretty good. You can also just go to Insert and then Table or Chart and just tell it the cells you want and it'll build it. You don't need Coefficient for that. It's just a fancier way to show that you can do other cool stuff with an AI prompt on the side. Yes?
So these can be added to Excel, which I guess,
Yes.
Google Sheets, is somewhat similar to it.
Yeah, so Microsoft's built-in AI, which is named Copilot, thank you, has a whole bunch of, there's a ton of stuff. You have to pay for it. I did try to get into the beta program for this, but they did not let me in, which is sad. But they have a bunch of stuff in beta that is going to come out in the next year, I imagine, when they get all the tweaks out. But there's wild how much cool stuff it can do in the back end. And similar to that, you just give it a prompt and it'll spit it out. You can actually have it create charts based on information on the internet as well. So you'd say, like, I want to see birth rates versus death rates in America from 2000 to 2024. And it would build you a chart based on relevant data with sources. Instead of you having to Google search it, which is great because searching kind of is hard now. Yeah, let's get back to the next one, which is translation. We already did that earlier, Google Translate. You can ask it to give you that sentence in English into Spanish or whatever, similar to DeepL, which is what I used earlier in 11 Labs, where we had that sentence pop over into Mandarin. This makes doing just everyday tasks a lot easier. If you have a client come into your store and they only speak Spanish, you can work with them now. And it's a lot easier instead of being like, no hablo español, sorry, I don't know what you're saying. You can now say, okay, well, talking to this, and then I'll get the English translation of it. Oh, you're looking for this 3/4 inch screw, or whatever. And you can, which is very cool.
My mother-in-law does not speak English, and I do not speak Spanish.
Yeah.
So, been there, done that.
Yeah, and it has its place. Right? It's not used every day, but it's certainly useful. Cybersecurity, this stuff's more back-end and like crazy cybersecurity companies are using it, but these AI assets are already built into your browsers, into your email, endpoint security, running in the background of operating systems. They're all over the place. They can monitor website traffic. They can monitor potential infiltration, like hackers trying to get into your systems. Examples of this are Microsoft's Azure cloud framework, which we talked about earlier. CrowdStrike, which had that big faux pas where it shut down a whole bunch of airports accidentally and was really bad for the economy. Cisco, Trellix, Cloudflare, these are all big data management, data security companies that are in use with all of the corporations across the whole globe. This one's really cool. Custom curated tutoring AI per subject matter, trained on reliable sources of information. So this is curated lists. They can be used as a teaching aid, brainstorming AI, lesson planning, quiz creation assistance. The example that I'm going to show you is Khan Academy. This is free for teachers and paid otherwise. If you're a student, you can have it create a tutor in whatever subject you're doing. And what it'll do is it'll guide them towards the answer instead of giving them the actual answer, which is similar to what a tutor does. So for instance, I want a lesson hook. We talked about this earlier. I'm teaching 7th graders, and I want them to learn the difference between rotation and revolution in the solar system. Include gravity and the planets in relation to each other. And I'm going to have it write some hooks. So here it is. Start with a quick hands-on activity where students use a flashlight and a globe to simulate the Earth's rotation and revolution. Have them observe how the light representing the sun affects different parts of the globe. So which parts of the globe are lit up versus dark? And what does that mean? Number 2, pose an engaging question to the class. What would happen if the Earth stopped rotating but continued to revolve around the sun? Encourage students to brainstorm and discuss potential effects on day and night cycles, weather patterns, and life on Earth. Number 3, introduce a problem-based activity where students work in small groups to design a model of the solar system using various craft materials. Each group must demonstrate both the rotation and revolution of the planets and explain how gravity keeps the planets in orbit around the sun. So that's not quite what a hook is, but it is a quick and dirty tutorial, quick and dirty lesson idea. A hook would be more like a sentence that gets kids hooked, but it's close. A really cool tool that it has is the lesson creation tool. Creating lesson plans is such a pain nowadays because you have to reference all sorts of learning standards. You need to, in this state, you need to reference, there's like 7 or 8 different learning standards depending on what subject matter. It's all broken out in their own things. You need to know the numbers, there's sub-numbers, there's sub-sub-numbers. And it takes a lot of time to build a lesson plan. But if I am planning on teaching, let's do the Pythagorean theorem. Is it going to give me that? If I spelled it right. How about we do...
You speak recognition to get this done.
Oh, I could, yeah. There you go. Let's do it. Pythagorean theorem. Oh, there it is. And now you can see it has some references. It can create a lesson plan for me. It has my learning objective. It has direct instruction. It has guided practice. It has continuing practice, independent. And then obviously the exit ticket. So Khan Academy does an exit ticket, which is like your pass out of the classroom is knowledge that you've gained during that lesson. And then it'll reference its sources too. It gives me all the sources. So here's a whole bunch of sources that I can extend the lesson with. Talks to me about right triangles, legs, advanced, go up to the top here. Gives me my learning objectives. Students will solve real-world mathematical problems involving the right triangles. And I can edit this. I can go in and delete sentences and things if I didn't like it. Here's our lovely 5-minute warm-up at the beginning. What do you notice? What do you wonder? These are like standard learning practices nowadays. These types of questions, these guided questions.
And those were Common Core standards?
This will be standards aligned. I'm actually looking for the standards, the written standards. Usually it has written standards somewhere. Usually it's at the top. Normally it's at, yeah, so here's what it gave me for the standards in this specific category. It would be 8GB7, Common Core standards in math. But if you're doing a music exercise, you'd have Common Core standards based in the music realm, which is kind of useful. But again, that would just give you the baseline, and then you'd have to edit it from there, because generally it'll kind of hit what you want, but not exactly. It'll give you lots of ideas, which is cool. Video, image, audio generation. These things are crazy. They can make all sorts of fun stuff. And we're going to do that using an AI tool called Stability AI. ChatGPT can also do it. You need to buy a subscription. And Midjourney is one that I've used in the past. It's another fabulous image editing tool. It's built specifically for image editing. Stability AI can do prompts. You can talk to it. It can also do images. It can also make songs for you. What would you like it to draw? A motorcycle. Draw a hyper realistic motorcycle with a frog driving it. Because why not? So it'll draw it. Takes a second. There he is, driving old Betsy here, looking great. So here's some other things that I've prompted it to in the past here. I asked it for a cinematic film still close-up dwarven female in gold-plated adamantium armor, steel longsword, and a metal helmet. Gave me a guy, but it tried. So that is an AI-generated image.
Does it show that it's AI generated?
It doesn't have a caption. There's no rules. So this is the Wild West. You don't have to say this image is AI generated. So fun fact of the day. Here's it, a second attempt because I wanted a dwarven female. Cinematics film still hyper-realistic, close-up, dwarven female in gold-plated adamantium armor. Closer. Still got this, we got the sword, we got the armor. Just the face a little. Cinematic film still, hyper-realistic close-up, gnome female in gold-plated adamantium armor. Got the female features, still got the beard. Can't seem to get rid of the beard. Again, that's training material. All the dwarfs and gnomes it knows, it has big old bushy beards, so here it is spitting out a big old bushy beard.
Could you do it with a statement of with no facial hair?
Probably. We can certainly try. What I could also do is dump this into Photoshop, which has an AI-assisted image editor, and ask it to remove the beard. And it will remove the beard and redraw what's supposed to be underneath it. And it's really good at it because it recognizes patterns, and pixels, colored pixels, are just patterns of color. So it can do that fabulously. Yeah, let's take this, copy it. Let's resume the chat. Let's paste it. No beard. Let's see what it gives me. I'm going to guess it still gives me a beard.
I'm going to say mustache.
Yeah.
Mustache only? Little goatee action? Hey, almost. We got some wisps. That's better.
That's reflection off the
Oh, yeah, that's all it is. Yeah. So there we go, pretty good. The helmet's a little askew. So yeah, if you're ever online and you're wondering if the image you're looking at is AI, all the images I used in this presentation were AI generated, including this one. It's really hard to distinguish. Here's some ways that you can distinguish. So this is an AI image of a teacher in front of a classroom. There's lots of red hair there, and if you look carefully at the chairs, there's a few extra legs there that shouldn't be there. And also, if you zoom in, which I don't know if I can do on this, and you look at the text, oh, I can do it. That is not real text. It looks like text. GNL is not a word. And there's also caps and lowercase. Oop, I don't know how I got there. Now we're learning together. I can zoom out and have all of my slides. Can we just, okay. So that's I actually don't think that's an AI image. That's an AI image. They're all AI images. This is I prompted it to ask to draw an image of itself, and this is what it drew. So I use that. There's another one. Another one. This one also looks like a real cat. That's an AI image of a cat. They're really good at cats and animals in general. Draw them fabulously. This robot's fake. They're all fake, all of these. This is, I think I asked it to do like a yin-yang sort of thing in space or something, and it gave me this. I thought that was cool.
I'm just wallowing around on Instagram looking at all the stuff there. There's no real way for me to say, is that AI or is that a photo?
So if you ever see a cool image and you're like, wow, I wonder if that's real. You can prove it false pretty quickly. So like this image, like obviously this is a fake image. It almost looks like it's drawn, but like I asked it to give me an image of the Earth exploding, and it gave me this, and then I just didn't edit it and fix it. But obviously this is a fake image, and no real artist would ever draw that because there's no representation of whatever that light beam is at the top. That doesn't match anything that you would find in real life. So yeah, this is AI. And if you look at the country there, South America is looking a little far away there. We're really stretched out Mexico. Yeah, that's an AI taking an image and kind of making it its own. Where's another one? Yeah, this is like a comic strip that I asked it to make about bias in the media. And none of these words are real. You can see my prompt in there, perspectives in the same news, kind of. My prompt is kind of in there, but none of this is real. Those are all fake words. So that's a great giveaway. It doesn't do words very well yet. This robot has too many bends in it. It's a fake robot. Like this. I don't know what this joint is right here, but that is incorrect. So that's a great way to tell. You can like, anatomically, like things won't make sense. This alien invasion is fake as well. It looks like someone drew it in the 60s, 50s, 40s. But you got a light beam coming out of nowhere. That's kind of, if stuff starts showing up out of nowhere like that, that's usually AI generated. There's no reason for it to be there. It just looks like it fits, so it put it in there. This robot's hands are all messed up. That is not what a hand looks like. But to an AI, it's close enough. This storm system is crazy, although that looks kind of cool. But the lightning's coming through a cloud and then going down to another cloud. Usually, if we're drawing a lightning, it comes out of a single cloud and doesn't go through a secondary cloud. Here's a big giveaway if you're looking at a photorealistic image like this, and you want to know if it's AI. AI loves these can lights. These things, if you ask it to do any sort of like coffee shop or workspace or anything like that, you will get these can lights. That's the only thing it knows. It knows Einstein bulbs and these stupid can lights, and these industrial ceilings, horrible, are all over the place. You can't like get rid of it. And then look at chairs. Look at the legs on the chairs. There'll be too many legs on chairs. They'll come out of weird spots. Great way to know. And then this is an Apple computer. That is not an Apple logo. I don't know what that is, but it's not. And then this coffee mug over here, too many handles. So easy AI depiction. And then obviously if you just find any text. Oh, we almost got coffee. But that's, again, my prompt. I asked it to put a person in a coffee shop, and the coffee logo is in there. The prompt is in there. So that's Stability AI's issues there. This is not exactly correct. The United States does not look like this. It looks kind of like that. And then I don't know what these are. These are not state names. I asked it to give me the change in birth rates. This is my prompt again. Change in birth rates in the United States from 2000 to 2023. And it gave me whatever this is. It's completely fake. But it looks cool. It looks like I'm showing you something cool. I'm not. It's fake. So that's again, bad actors can use this to easily manipulate people that don't know any better and don't know the clues and what they're looking at and how easily it is generated, which I just showed you, where we made this like amazing photo. It looks like that human exists in armor. Nope, took like 30 seconds.
So we need to train each other and be more literate in terms of watching our media.
We need to be aware that this exists and that you can't really trust your eyes anymore, which you used to be able to. You used to be able, you be 100%. If you saw it, you're good. Like that exists. Well, now you're going to see it, and no, that's fake. Facebook is rife with it right now. There are tons of AI-generated posts getting lots of traction, or cute animals. There's a bunch of fake images of Mudang, the little hippo, the pygmy hippo out there that's adorable. Tons of AI of Mudang doing crazy stuff.
Well, won't there be a time when you'll be able to, let's say, take a photo and tell whether it's AI generated, AI altered, or the real thing?
If legislation is passed that regulates, yes. However, the United States does not currently have any legislation or even pending legislation, I don't believe, to regulate this industry. So it's unregulated. It's the Wild West of imagery and stuff, and this is the most dangerous technology that's ever existed. The potential misuse of information for propaganda, for doing anything, is absolutely insane. You can even build whole websites that just pump out fake information, and then you can cite those websites as source material in your social media posts and be like, look, it's proven fact, here it is. And you can you can even fake peer-reviewed data with fake scientists, and it's going to be like information, figuring out what you're reading and whether or not you can believe it is going to be harder and harder. And we're already kind of there with botnet networks trying to infiltrate U.S. elections and other country elections and push agendas that are not America's agenda or other countries' agendas. People are already exploiting this. China, in particular, is using this to create a countrywide network of cameras, such as red light cameras, and they can install facial recognition software on that, find where you are and what you're doing, your daily habits, and assign you a social score, where the government can rate you on how good a citizen you are. And if you're not as good a citizen as they like, they can restrict access to your bank account, to access to public facilities, to things like that. That's the potential that they can go down. They already are doing the facial recognition stuff. They know where their citizens are, but there's some wild stuff you can do with this technology, and it's all just kind of running in the background. And it's stuff to be aware. And regulations are needed in this to prevent a scenario like that from occurring, where you don't really have freedom, everyone's monitoring you. And we're kind of getting close to there where you can't just have a private moment anymore. Everyone's got their phone out with their camera, taking pictures of everything you do. So that's why I don't do social media. I like to have my mental sanity. Any questions on this crazy technology as my slideshow promptly ends?
Back to my earlier question, how do you give it a chunk of data for it to churn through?
Yeah, so they will take a database. So think Wikipedia, which is just an open source public database dictionary of events, encyclopedia of events that's happened throughout the world. And you can peer review and peer edit the information, so it's pretty accurate, but you can't trust it because it's not from a peer-reviewed research paper, official source. It's just made by people like you and me, going on. But they can scrape that data and assign weights to the subject matter based on relevance. So like anything that's talking about math, it'll assign a value to, and the AI will know that value is referencing math. And so it can take that and it can scoop that for its information that it spits back out at the user. So that would be an example of how they do like a curated list. Does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, I was thinking more in the lines of a particular subject, stuff that's already written, that I want it to delve into.
Oh, I see. So if I had a spreadsheet of all of my hearth industry, I own a hearth business, and all of my stove sales for the last 4 years, and I have a big chart, and it shows the purchase price, the sale price, and then the trend for how many of those I sold over the years or whatever. I could grab that information and tell the AI to read from that information, find the patterns, and display it to me in a line graph for profit and loss or whatever. And it would do that pretty much instantly versus it would take an analyst a couple hours maybe to put that together, depending on how many points of data you had. So like say I sold 20,000 stoves in a year, that would take me quite a while to sift through that information, plot it on a line chart, and then see the statistical significance, or whatever, versus an AI that can plot that instantly, and you can have that data in 2 minutes. And a lot of that is prompting, giving it good prompting, asking the right questions, wording it correctly. You'll get vastly different results with poor prompting versus good prompting. And so there's like prompt engineers out there now that you can hire that will write you a really good prompt that'll give you the exact image you want. There are some cool basic ones in Stability AI. If I get to the home page again, if I click on like image, here's the input text that they did. Create a photo of a girl, cinematic film still, full plate armor. And it gave you this. And if you do it again, it'll give you a different image. Well, it should have. Let me try maybe the 3D. Make a 3D model pie. Okay, well this is not being a very good. Also can make 3D models, and then you can print it out on a 3D printer. Yeah, these aren't the best prompts, but some of the prompts that they have are quite long and very detailed, and then the image that they get is pretty much exactly what they want. So the better the prompt, the better the resulting image.
There are other ones out there that could actually write a book for you. A friend of mine wrote a book, and it was about a place in Connecticut, and a special park in Connecticut. And he gave the names of the characters and what the general plot would be, and it was written, and he paid the $24.95, and they sent it, and they put it into the library.
So there's actually a really big issue right now in on the Kindle, the little e-reader on the Kindle store. There's a bunch of fluff AI generated books, and there's no way to remove them from the store due to user privacy violations or whatever. They can't do anything. So what people are doing are taking subjects that are popular in like modern culture that people are buying books on, and they'll just spam it with titles like fake books that are made completely with AI, not even edited, and they'll paste it with a title that's relevant, that's like catchy, and people will buy a completely generated AI book, and people are making 6 figures off of that. And you're reading nothing. You're reading fake. It's literally nothing. And it's also taking away from the people that are creating those books and are doing all of their research and creating a nice, interesting read.
I think I ran across something like that on Amazon in a print version where it appeared to be kind of like a term paper that somebody had written for a college course or whatever. And it really didn't even have footnotes to it. The pages were not even numbered in it. Because there were footnotes at the bottom, but they weren't really referenced, but there were no page numbers.
Right.
It got me thinking, could that have been an AI-generated fake?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, like when you can fake a whole research paper and then you source your fake research paper, like how are you supposed to know, and you can fake that it's peer-reviewed. You can ask the AI to write a peer-reviewed fake research paper on something, and it will, and it'll make it look like it's a research paper with the abstract and all the data analysis. And so it's, we're entering this realm, and there's no laws that say you can't do that, or it has to have a watermark, or you get sued or put in jail, or there's none of that yet. There are in the EU. The EU already, they were like, oh, and they passed all their stuff, not all of it, but they've got some stuff in place for that. But the United States is the Wild West. Because we love our capitalism. So, we need to pass some stuff about this.
You come to the library, you got a book.
Yes.
Look at it.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Books are awesome. And books might very well make a comeback, because you know where they come from, unless they start printing AI hard copy books. So that's on the publishers. But you know where they come from, you know what the author is. You can call the author up or email them, and they'll give you a response. And, it's a great form of media. So, any other questions?
Well, thank you all for coming, and we hope to see you at other programs as well.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Thank you.